Hi guys, this is Cindy, and Mike is out closing the chicken coop, so he'll be right with us. We have been rushing around all day, so sorry about being a moment or so late, but hope everyone's doing well and had a great week. I see we have Incense Shop here. Mike's mom is here. Linda Taylor, Tina Noose, Todd Fisher. Can't talk tonight. Todd Fisher is here. Hello, hello. Welcome everybody. If I could get a sound check, that would be awesome. And we'll see how this goes, and hopefully we'll have a few more join us as we go. We've had an extremely busy week and day, so although it's changed from winter to summer all of a sudden, it was like snowing, what, a week ago? Hit 2.5 inches, and it was almost 80 degrees today. Crazy, crazy, but we did get a lot done. Very nice weather this weekend. I'm good, Tina, thanks. How are you? And for those of you guys coming over, Noah's Ark, how's the baby? So far, so good. 15 weeks now, so coming along, and we'll be keep coming along. I'm thinking a little bit more, but sounds great, awesome. So Carrie's in here, Noah's Ark. For those of you guys just joining in, Mike will be joining us in a moment. It is getting dark and he's closing up chicken coops because it's that time of year where our sunset kind of conflicts with our show. But hello, Green Gables. So we have had an extremely busy week again, and I have not been home almost any evening during the week. So didn't get any video done. I was hoping to get one done, but just didn't happen with like being out every single night after work this week. So hopefully that's going to be different this week so I could get some stuff done for you guys. And we had a lot of projects to do this weekend. So thank you, Noah's Ark. And hello, Butcher Baker and Queso Maker. Anyone else? Oh, Bree joined in as well, and Green Gables. Hello, hello. So yeah, we have a bunch happening. Yesterday was our first outdoor market. I didn't put any pictures up of our market day, but we both went to the downtown Kalamazoo market because the weather was amazing. It was like in the 60s and really pleasant out and perfect for a first weekend at the market. And we had a very, very busy market. Very good market, so we needed that. That was helpful because it's nice to bounce back after winter. And so we didn't get a whole lot done after that. I'm trying to think of what we were working on because we worked on so many things today. Oh, I did get to work on updating our chicken tractor because I was one of those who made the mistake of using too small of hardware cloth underneath, so I was switching that out and redoing a little of the framing as well. So that is so cool. I just noticed what Tina was writing. Hi, BBQ, Butcher Baker Queso Maker. That's awesome. And I hear Mike coming in. Hey, Mike. Yeah. And we just started. A couple minutes late.
Helix is outside.
Helix is outside. Oh, fun. We'll have to wait for him to come in.
All came out when I went to put them away. One row was out, and instead all three went out.
Oh, fun.
And then I had to give up, and I came. And then as soon as I turned around, got to the barn, they went back in. And then the fence was sparking in one area. It was running green and then red.
So it was shorting.
I found two shorts.
Okay. I had to fix it yesterday too because we had a couple branches that had come down.
Yeah,
in areas.
So I made something to check it, but it was snapping in a couple, and I was actually sparking on one of the T-posts.
Yeah, we don't. Oh, I'm on the T-post. It must have.
It was just snagged. It was just snagged over it.
Oh, okay. Must have shifted.
So I think it's better. It's not too bad right now. So everything's in.
Good. So we have a number of people in the room already. What were we doing yesterday? You after market. We got home from market. I did talk about market was a really busy market.
We did market, which was for me 3:30 in the morning until we got home at about 3-ish.
Yeah, we took naps.
Took a quick nap. And then
worked outside for a
oh
little
yeah, we
bit.
got up and I was gonna try and do a little bit of work. We ended up working almost to dark till
Yeah.
just before 9.
I was working on the coop and you were working
I
broad forking.
I broad forked a quarter to a third of the garden, so
We've got about a third left.
we're
We're about
around
half left.
half.
Yeah.
We're maybe just over half, but
Yeah.
well, we did the perimeters, we did all the tough areas, all the areas that haven't been forked in a couple of years, and all the paths. So right now, all the middle stuff should fork pretty easily.
Yeah, the next 2 sections, probably doing 2 sections or more.
Hopefully, I can do it in two times. It may take 3. I mean, it takes some time, but it's also it's not for the amount of work that you're doing, the physical movement of material. It's not very hard work, but it's still
a workout.
Still somewhat of a workout, and you can get a little bit sore.
Yeah. So been working on that today. Well, this morning. Well, actually, no. I should backtrack a second. Before today, this week, I think it was what, Friday or yesterday, we had a surprise under our silky.
Oh, people at Baker's Creek Spring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a number of people saying they were going. Who else? There were some other people.
Oh, I don't know. We got distracted, but
yeah,
we have chicks.
That would be fun.
We have other babies.
Yeah, I know that. I don't know if they do, but I do.
Yeah. No, the silky chicks started hatching yesterday. I think it was yesterday. This whole weekend's blending together. Have 2 chicks so far that I've seen. I'm not sure. I gave her 8 eggs, so I did not candle them, so I don't know if they were all
and they're
viable or
all
not.
hers, so they all
Yes.
so they don't come. We're not getting multiples in a day, so it takes time to gather them up.
So, well, that's fine. They'll lay eggs for
yeah.
like 3 weeks a lot of times. Yes.
Because we're really short on silkies. We're down to 2.
Yeah. We have one roux, one hen, and the hen's been sitting on these eggs for the last 3 weeks, and they're just starting to hatch. So hopefully we'll get a couple more out of these guys. Like I said, I did not see if I didn't candle them at all, so I'm not sure if we'll get any more or not. So we'll see. She hasn't come off the nest yet, so she hasn't. I had to actually move the food a little closer to her because they were supposed to be due today, not yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give her another day.
Yeah, we got a nice warm up, so
yeah.
things. Yeah, and she's in a pretty nice contained area.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure we have another day or so.
Yeah, that might hatch.
1 to 2 days to make sure that they're all.
Yeah. So we'll give it a little more time, but she needs to feed and water them after day 1. Day 1 is fine. Day 2 is probably okay. Before day 3, they need food and water. So I did shift it a little closer to her in case she wanted to stay on the rest of the eggs and see if they hatch. Give them another day or so just to see, and we'll go from there. But
we're waiting for turkeys to hatch. Not our turkeys, but there's been a single female wild turkey that has been in our backyard almost every day, which is pretty normal. We had a whole flock of them
earlier,
and then we only saw them once. That was about 2 weeks ago, and then they all disappeared. But there's one female we keep seeing, so I think there's baby turkeys very close.
Yeah, I think she probably has a nest somewhere nearby. So
most years we have at least some.
Yeah. So might have baby turkeys in the yard too. We'll see, but not our turkeys. Other things we did. Excuse me. Oh wait, let me see. I'm not sure why that. Thank you. You read it faster than I did. Why Todd's comment was held, but that's absolutely fine. 2 of the nankins are sitting on eggs. 1 is at the hog pen. Smart chicken. The pigs will keep the predators away.
Yeah, as long as the pigs don't eat them. I assume she'll be nasty enough to them that the pigs will back off.
Yeah.
But.
No, I don't have pigs, so I wouldn't know if they would ignore them or eat.
Well, they'll eat a dead chicken.
They will eat a dead chicken. I know that. They'll eat almost anything that's dead that you give them. They might eat some live things too if they're hungry enough. But anyway, so what did we do this morning?
We went on a quick hike
with Pudding.
And we were kind of looking for morels. There has been a smattering of morels a little bit a week ago. They're definitely becoming more prevalent. We got about
Yeah.
3 inches of rain, just tons of rain this week. And it's dried up for about 2 days, so it is a good time to look. I think the soil is still warming up, especially in the shady areas. So we went out looking for morels. Just went to some public land and hiking areas, and
Hi, Freedom
poked
Homestead.
around. We did not find any. I think we found terrain and plants and environments that seemed very, very likely for morels.
Yeah.
So I don't think we've missed them.
But it is a fairly public place, so it could have been that other people
if there
got
was
to
a
'em.
few people could have, over the last 2 days,
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, could have gotten in there, but we didn't. There was not a lot of people, and yeah. So I think they're not there yet.
Or they're not in that area.
Typically, we have a 4 to 6 week
window.
Not every year. This year, it seems like it's setting up to be pretty good for the moment.
Oh yeah.
And Mother's Day is sort of the key, but it could be up to 2 weeks earlier. So we're right on time or early.
Yeah.
And then we have a window of 4 to 6 weeks. So
there were some morels up before we had the snow last week.
Yeah, and then it held them. So the first morels in the area were sighted 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and then they came back right after the snow because it warmed right back up.
So I don't know. We did find
some other stuff.
Some wintergreen.
I did not get a picture on the wintergreen up here, but we did find some wintergreen.
Found one mushroom.
Well, I'm gonna show this one first because we were talking about it last week. We found some trillium. So if you can see, this picture has one flower on one of the trillium that's just about to open. So we did find more of the traditional trillium that are just about to open. Last week we were talking about the toad-shaped trillium that I had transplanted, brought from my parents.
Kentucky, you guys are done. You've probably been done for a month at least.
Yeah, or at least a couple weeks.
So Michigan's such a large and state that moves. I mean, you can drive 5 hours almost from the south end to the north, just up the lower peninsula
only.
And then you can go another, So anyway,
you can go another 6 hours across.
There is probably a month to 6 weeks of morels moving up through Michigan, and almost the entire. Some people say the UP or the lower peninsula is the best area, but actually the entire state, just based upon rain and climate. It can be very, very rich with morels. It's definitely.
You want to explain what the UP is?
Yeah, it's the Upper Peninsula.
Not everyone in the room is from Michigan. So the Upper Peninsula and Lower Peninsula. So we often just say the UP. So it's a huge state, you guys. It's actually, you can go from the bottom of the Lower Peninsula all the way up to the northernmost part. If you drove, well, I guess you can't drive it straight.
What is it, like 300 miles or something? I can't remember.
And
then you can go across, of course. You can go
you go west across
east to west across the Upper Peninsula, and that's like another, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, I guess it seemed like it used to take about 5 hours, but with speeds up 75 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And people driving like 85, 90 miles an hour. The trip is a little faster than it used to be, but it's a pretty good trip.
Yep.
And that's all an interstate if you want it to be.
So, hi, Mama Driad. Let's see, what else did we see? We saw a snake.
So a pretty big snake. Yep.
It was
3 or 4 feet long, I would guess.
Yeah, it wasn't extremely long. It was pretty thick. I don't know.
It was, I mean, we don't get huge snakes here in general. So this was, for a wild snake, it was.
Yeah, it was a decent size.
Probably an inch diameter-ish.
I was a little questioning what type it was because it has a little different pattern, although it could still be a hognose because they have so many different patterns.
What determines morel season? So the morel season, obviously you need moisture for any mushroom to grow.
You need soil temperatures of at least 50.
Yeah, 50, but they don't like, if the soil becomes much over, I think 65, 70 degrees.
It starts getting too.
Yeah, so it's a combination of, spring weather when you get the right amount of moisture and the ground just begins to
warm
up enough. And so if you're having cold nights, you won't get morels even if you have moisture. They'll be delayed. If you're in a heavily forested area, you may see those morels 2 or 3 weeks after you see them in in a sunny area. Pudding did not
She even see it.
She was 2 feet away. When I said, "Oh, there's a snake," I was looking around, and then
Yeah.
Cindy was like, "Oh, let me see," and she went to take a picture and look closer, and we held Pudding back just to make sure she was,
Yeah.
but she never
She
even
never
looked over there.
noticed it because it was staying so still.
Yeah, it wasn't moving.
I don't think she even saw it. So, Jello, our previous Dane, was actually wanting to attack the snake. I saw him back. That was a hog nose in our yard one time. So I had to hold him back.
He had a little more of a hunting instinct.
Yeah.
She doesn't have much of one.
No. In fact,
she's trying to chase rabbits. She's finding that fun.
She's finding that fun, but she would have caught one. It was a half-grown rabbit, but she put her paw on it and looked at me like, what am I supposed to do? She caught it with her paw, but she didn't actually even mouth it or at all. So I was very surprised that she didn't go for it, which is fine because it means she won't go for our chickens.
Cindy likes snakes. I don't mind snakes.
Basically,
Michigan, there's very, very few are poisonous.
Only one, actually. It's a rattlesnake. That's really rare. So, yeah.
We were right off the water, so we do have the Mississaugas.
Mississauga rattlesnake is.
Yeah. So mostly we have a garter snake or standard
hognose snakes.
Hognose, which are probably some of the biggest.
Some black water snakes. That's it.
Yeah.
Not much.
But they're so we don't really worry about snakes much.
No.
If you're down by a marshy area, that might be the one place. And
you could get a rattler down there.
Yeah, the thing with the Mississaugas are they don't like people.
Yeah.
And they generally,
shy.
if there's any disturbance, they take off.
Yeah.
So it's only if you end up on top of them accidentally that they're gonna bite you. So yeah, it's really no poisonous spiders, and just
the poisonous spiders.
Well, we have brown recluse.
Yeah, we do.
Which we didn't.
Didn't used to, but yeah, we do.
Not as pervasive. When I was in Memphis, that was a big problem. Yeah. People get them all the time in their windowsills, their boots, all kinds of stuff. So we don't worry too much about poisonous critters.
Not too much, no.
It's really not on your mind at all.
We didn't used to have many large predators either, but now we're starting to get more of those. We didn't growing up. We didn't have coyotes in our backyard. I grew up in the woods. We had no coyotes.
I think the coyote, are definitely more prevalent.
They've moved in. And then there's
a little bit of bear. Yeah, there's a little talk of bear activity in the Lower Peninsula, which really wasn't ever an issue growing up. So, but it's not like New Jersey and upstate New York where there isn't a water boundary, and you really do need to be a little aware of bear activity.
Yeah. So we did not find morels, which is what we're looking for, but we did find another edible mushroom that we had for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
It's one that will feature if you guys follow on Instagram or on our
snakes
Facebook
in the
page.
dining room. Yeah, snakes in the house we don't have interest in.
No, thank you. Keep them out.
They're fine outside.
Keep them out and keep them away from my chickens. That's all I ask. I don't care. Otherwise, I find them interesting to look at, and I used to catch them as a kid, the gardener snakes, but that's it.
As did Carrie.
Yeah. But anyway, so what did we find? Anybody know what this mushroom is?
Yeah, that's kind of the foraged item of the week.
Yep.
They are seasonal and a perfect edible right now for us.
And they're often considered the morel hunter's consolation prize because they are found on elm trees, ash trees, other hardwoods, but very similar areas.
So we were in a wet area, mixed light, mixed trees, nice slope, heading down to some water. So we had all different types of. I'm like, man, we had mosses, we had other things that all can be very common with morels.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this really looks good. This really looks good. And there was a downed tree, and
not turkey tail.
I went to step over it.
It's bigger than that.
And I turned around and I said, whoa, yeah, that's about 9-10 inches across.
Yeah.
We had seen them in the market yesterday with Nabi, and so we knew they were out there. And she says, they're really good, but hurry up and get them now. It looks
like a chicken tail. That could be a new name for it. It's not a chicken tail. Chicken of the woods and hen of the woods are different. This one, it is a pretty.
So there are
mushroom.
actually 3 there. That was the largest. We did take that one, and the other 2 we left. Because we just didn't feel like we needed them. So
There are about 2 common names that I know of, maybe a third that I kind of heard of just recently. Um, no, I'll give it away. It's called a pheasant back or Driad saddle. Those are the 2 common names. In fact, no, I didn't put it in the description here, I don't think. I may have. I may have put it in the tags, but yeah, pheasant back or Driad saddle. It's a shelf mushroom. It grows directly on the wood.
Yep.
So it can grow on living trees. It actually is a parasite on living trees, but you usually find it on dead trees. That peacock tail. The other name I heard just recently was hawk's tail, because if you look at that, yeah, it does look like feathers, or tail feathers for that matter. But pheasant back or Driad saddle are the 2 names I've heard of more often.
So that's the first fully wild, not in our yard mushroom that we found without a guide that we harvested and ate.
Nope. There was one at your parents' house. We haven't eaten it.
Yes.
We found reishi at your parents' house.
Found one little piece of reishi. You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we found a piece of reishi near here also.
Yes, we did.
So yeah. But this, and I guess that's more herbal than
it edible. Is more medicinal.
But yeah, as far as being confident that, because one, I had just seen them in market yesterday, a lot of them, which was what made me. Otherwise, I would have stepped right over it and not really thought much about, because I'd forgotten about them.
I saw it last year on our foraging trip with Navi.
And then I was told, and so the problem is these get very tough and woody very quickly. So the inner ring you don't. And stem you tend not to eat. You can soak it and make a broth, and very quickly they mature. So you can only eat the outer inch or 2, or none of it. So this was perfect. It was in a very wet area. It was almost soaking wet.
Yes, it was.
We let it sit out for the day just to dry up a little bit. I refrigerated. We did half of it with some Brussels sprouts and corn that were laying around, and we just scarfed it down right before.
And I probably will go get more of that.
And hash. Some cheap piece of sirloin I got on special that was okay, but far from good in marbling, or it was fine, or from being like it wasn't a grass fed or organic or anything special. It was like an Aldi steak. So but it was all right. I had one, so we sliced it and.
So you have it in hash. You have it in that hash on the bottom with the Brussels sprouts. So
we had the garlic shoots, or not the garlic shoots, what is it? It's like the chives, the garlic.
The wild,
the little wild bit. No, not ramps. It's it looks like a chive, but it's flat instead of round and hollow, and it's a garlicky flavored.
The wild garlic, maybe.
So I had that. I had some corn and some Brussels sprouts that have been hanging around, and I just real quick threw it together with some butter and olive oil.
Yep.
So yeah, the pheasant back was ready to eat right away. It was perfect.
It was tender.
It was tender. It's very mild. I sauteed it. I guess a lot of people are concerned about it drying out. This one, I cut it nice and thin just in case. I didn't sear it real hard, because sometimes I try and dehydrate them a little bit and bring out the flavor. Funny thing was, so some people kind of scrape the pheasant side a little bit. I didn't. A lot of people
will take the pore side
may
off.
Scrape the pores if they're dirty or have anything in them, or may just I did lightly slice them off, but I don't think it mattered. This one was so nice.
It was so fresh. It was so huge. Usually the fresh ones are like this big.
Well, Navi had some like this at the market. I mean, and she goes, I'm like them better than morels. Now, I like morels better, but these are very mild. So the smell was like a cucumber or watermelon rind.
And that is one way to tell that it's a pheasant back, other than that pretty characteristic top side of it.
And I was just saying to Cindy, this really smells like a cucumber, or almost like a melon. It has some other smell characteristics, but they're mild.
It's really like a watermelon rind.
Yeah, the flavor was quite mild, a little bit earthy. Hard, actually, with the corn and the Brussels, it was a little harder to taste it. To taste it. I have another half of it left, so I'll do it separate now that I know a little bit about it. That it cooked out fine, and it wasn't, it was very mild. So, so we could take the pores off. We did. I did not take the scale off the top because it was so nice.
Yeah.
And it's firm in the middle, and I cut them nice and thin. Sauteed them in a cast iron pan. Started with a little olive oil blend and whole butter. I like the combination. So if butter has a great flavor that's hard to replace, olive oil has a nice flavor but could be too strong by itself, I use a blend. But if you put the two together, whole butter burns. And if you want a really hot pan to sear mushrooms, it'll be long burned before the mushrooms are cooked properly. If you take butter, as long as it's not too screaming hot, if you put 50% butter, 50% oil, it buffers and protects it much longer, and it gives you a really nice flavor
on it. Yeah.
So that's a good, if you're looking for flavor, and you cuts the cost down a little bit on the butter, because I use the blend, and then I did put a little extra virgin olive oil on at the very end.
Yeah.
Salt, pepper, nothing else. I forgot we have some kimchi pickled ramps.
Yeah.
And I was looking, I didn't have any sauce. I'm kind of like, I didn't want to put anything spicy or garlicky or anything.
That might have overpowered.
It was kind of mild. You know, it was kind of a mild all-American plate, but I wanted to focus on those things. So we do have these whole pickled or whole kimchi ramps. And man, about one of those on the top as garnish would have been perfect. And I just forgot they're in the fridge.
Yeah.
So. Ostrich ferns, yeah.
Yeah.
Fiddleheads are up. They're actually sunny areas are too. They're probably already open, but there's many areas that are you know in the shade that are still got heads on them.
Did get some pictures of fiddleheads, but I wasn't sure of the species. So that one didn't think it actually was the one of the edible ones because it didn't have the scaliness on it. So, but I didn't put it in the lineup for today.
We didn't come across any bracken fern. I know that.
No,
because those are easy to identify. They have the three scroll,
like a claw, like a hawk's claw.
So it would have So it would have been the ostrich ferns and some of the other.
Yeah, either ostrich
single scroll, which is what I always call the fiddlehead.
Yeah.
Until we became familiar with the
knobbies.
Knobbies, but she
She only calls them one fiddlehead, but technically they're all fiddleheads because that's just the shape.
And the fiddlehead with the 3, it is recommended you blanch it at least once, throw out the water if not twice, before you use it, because there are chemical compounds that if you eat a lot of them, that's the only time to be really concerned. But you should try and eliminate those by a couple of blanches and throwing away the water, and then you can dry it or stir fry it or cook it and don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine to eat.
And I did want to go back to something Noah's Ark said. She says she loves mushrooms too, but doesn't want to mess things up. I will say the Driad saddle or pheasant back, whatever you want to call it, this is one, there's no look-alike to this one. So on the top side, you have this characteristic brown, almost feathery pattern. They're actually called scales on a mushroom. The flip side of it has pores, and the pores are pretty darn big, and they're honeycomb shaped.
It's almost like the really, really super small scale pores on like a chicken leg.
Yeah.
Look, and there's something
like
else
the scale shape. It's basically.
Yeah, there's something else that looks similar too.
There's no real look-alike for Driad saddle though. There's other shelf mushrooms.
And they come up this time of year, and they'd be soft. And really, there's probably a week or 2 weeks.
Well, no, they actually, you can find them in the summer and fall. It's just dependent on weather. They're most prevalent this time of year.
Yeah, when the usability is now, because the chances that you're going to get much out of them.
They get hard as they get older.
So.
And then they're annual. So they come up annually. So they don't grow on previous year's growth. They actually die off and then I was going to say flower, but
on that down heavily decayed tree, which is probably an ash or something, it looked like.
Yeah.
There were 3, and there was one actually laying in the ground that was very decayed, which was clearly last year's.
Yeah. Yeah. And this one is the only mushroom that will have that melony smell to it as well, which does not come across when you cook it.
No.
Just when it's fresh.
So that's really your environment looks right, your time looks right, the top and bottom look right.
You smell it.
You're already 90%, but when you get that smell, now you're 102%.
If it smells like a watermelon rind or a cucumber, it's a pheasant back and it's edible. If the inner part's too tough, then you just take the outer like 1/2 inch to 2 inches, depending on how much.
Try and make broth. That'd be a very light broth.
Yeah.
And you can kind of float them in soup. So that the nice thing is
they
our foraging with Nabi, other people have different opinions.
Yeah.
But for her, she really only, other than like morels or chanterelles, she really only picks mushrooms on trees because it takes down a lot of the steps of identification that are easy to mess up. So things that grow on trees, you can tell the tree and the condition, is it alive, is it dead? You're a lot further towards a positive identification than something just growing in the dirt.
Yeah.
Now it can be, you can have buried tree trunk in the dirt that is growing exactly the right thing, and you might actually investigate that. But yeah, most of the mushrooms are just growing here and there, either undesirable or dangerous.
Yeah. So there's actually only a few types that could in Michigan that could kill you, but there are a lot that can make you sick.
There's one that could kill you in a few hours.
Yes, there is one of those. But the shelf ones on trees are usually pretty safe. It's just not all of them are really edible because they're too hard. But this one is a good one. So
yeah. So that was a nice little treat.
Yeah. So that was for dinner tonight. And we should open up things to, go back to this picture. Ask the chef if you guys have other cooking questions and such.
Spring's a great time because there are so many things you can eat right now. Again, because their outer layers of fiber and shoots and things are edible, that in a few weeks or a month, they're just not edible. They're not digestible. They're totally undesirable because they're tough.
Yeah.
Asparagus is just sprouting here. We did have asparagus in the market. Fiddleheads is quick. You have 2 weeks to a month if you go from sunniest areas to darkest areas where you will find them. Yeah, our first mushroom. So there's probably some oysters out. The pheasant backs.
Oysters, pheasant backs, morels.
Morels
are the 3 edibles, and then you have the medicinals, which turkey tails year round, and you do have some jellies out, but they're not as nice.
Yeah, I've reishi's around, but a lot of the reishi's underwater because our water table is very high. So reishi, even if it's there, it's probably inaccessible, or you wouldn't know it's there.
You gotta wait for the water to recede.
Yeah, wait for the water to go down a couple feet and then go see, because it'll grow through. But yeah, there are so many shoots and young weeds that before they get bitter or spicy or tough to eat.
Like dandelion and chicory.
The dandelions, the chicories. We have sorrel, wild sorrel up. It hangs around a lot, but it's really some of the watercresses and mushes and some of those things are pretty much finishing.
Can you do anything with kombucha SCOBY besides the tea?
Well, it's mostly water, so it's going to dehydrate to almost nothing. I mean, you can use it. You can compost it and probably use it to help put it into some form of a compost. We don't do kombucha. There are some that I like. Okay, usually when they're cut with juice, with a fruit juice. I rarely buy kombucha, super rarely, and that's only because I've had a few now. The first ones I just thought were terrible, probably because they were. We do have a local small business that's making kombucha in the market. We know them. We did some stuff with them. They do blend with, theirs is pretty good. So we don't make a kombucha.
No. I just never really liked.
And Cindy really doesn't like it at all.
We tried it before. We tried making it before because I did have a friend at work who gave me a SCOBY.
Did we try?
Yeah, in New York.
I know we held it. I don't know if we made it.
Yeah, I didn't like it. So that was the first time I had tried it.
I think, I have a chef friend who cuts it with all kinds of stuff. I think that's really the key, because if you do straight kombucha, especially batch kombucha, and they do vary, but you do the standard protocol batch kombucha, it is very acidic. I think it smells like vinegary trash can juice. Just because I used to change a lot of trash cans in 100-degree heat in Atlanta during college at a gas station, and people were dumping all their beverages and whatever. And
a lot of fermentation.
And you had a lot of juicy fermentation going on, but where it leaked out of the bag. So I just immediately, and I think it's pretty much that's what's going on. It's yeast. It's that's
a bad association.
Yeah, well, and I don't think that smells, I guess, pretty bad, but it wasn't stomach turning. I just didn't want to consume it. I have a chef friend who did a lot with cutting with ginger, doing different syrups in it, and doing a lot of fruit juices. Lenny, who he's really good. And I think that, so now I know a lot of people are doing continuous kombuchas. So they do a pour, where they pour it. True, it is a vinegar. It is making vinegar. It's acetic acid. There's a very slight amount of alcohol because it's a symbiotic relationship between basically yeast and a variety of bacterias. So the majority of what you have is acidity or acetic acid. And then you do have usually 1 to 4% based on the sugar content, or less than 1% of alcohol, which is important. You need it to keep it going, but it's minimal in most of them. You could clean it. I'm sure you could clean a toilet with it. It would probably be pretty effective, among other things. It's probably a
like
good,
you could clean your
it's
toilet with.
probably a good inoculant to put in your compost. It's probably a great inoculant if you have a nasty one that doesn't taste good to give to your chickens in small, like small amounts in their water. I'm guessing there's some, there's good probiotics in there.
Yeah.
So,
well, you can use vinegar to clean your toilet too if you want to. So
yeah. So I think, but there is, so the traditional kombucha, before we've gone to the mix where you're cutting it by about half with juices, or you're doing the pour over ones, which are a little lighter. The traditional one is quite strong, and you actually are only supposed to drink about 4 ounces a day. And you do a little shot of it. And frankly, you don't want to drink more than that because it's truly a medicinal, and I think most people find it not real tasty. It's when we've made it into a beverage. So that original one, the reason, so I was going through some of the state stuff, there is a legal protocol in Michigan to make and sell it in the last couple of years. There are a couple reports of some ill effects or death from kombucha, but
that's got to be bad.
Well, the caveat to it is because, yeast and acetic acid they're pretty safe. They outcompete most other bacteria. The reason they think there was some death was they were seniors or they were not healthy, and the guess is that they were probably people that were ill, that were drinking a lot, trying to get better. So even
they were drinking a lot of it.
Probably drinking a lot. That's why they recommend no more than like 4 to 8 ounces a day of the strong stuff, because you're not supposed to drink a lot of acid. It's not good to have too much acid in your diet. And so they're even clear in that article that they don't know that it was a kombucha. They think it's the combination of the volume, that people may be compromised or elderly, or that they're not. Some of the cases they probably had cancer or other things where they were drinking a lot trying to remedy a problem. And so, did it actually hurt them, or was
they probably just
was the illness, especially with kids? Did they die of other things? So even that thing was like, we just don't recommend that you drink more than 4 to 8 ounces. So I don't think that's a high concern. And when the health department's telling you that, and they're kind of like, well, maybe, and they're usually so specific and overly cautious. I'm gonna, but. Yeah. The idea that you sit around with the 64-ounce kombucha and drink it all day long every day, probably, do it in moderation as a healthful and or pleasurable item. We do have a lot of kombucha on tap around here at restaurants. Some of them have the 4%, a little higher alcohol, so they're brewed more like a beer-ish type thing. Yeah. Pickle juice, small amounts of pickle. Yeah, I mean the salt's probably the biggest problem on that.
It helps you relieve cramps.
Yep.
So if you're getting a Charlie horse or something, you drink a little bit of pickle juice, and
it changes the pH of your body in like
quickly,
fraction of a minute. And you're talking an ounce or two, but the salt helps, and the acetic acid. But yeah, don't drink too much pickle juice. But yeah, it's so salty. The brine, you couldn't drink too much. Yeah. I don't think the brine is probably a bigger issue than the vinegar on pickle juice.
No, but and usually you get Charlie horses and things like that because you're actually off balance in your salts.
Low sodium, low potassium, one of the two. Usually potassium.
Potassium.
I don't know if pickles have a lot of potassium. There's definitely sodium, and then helping to affect the pH, which causes some muscle response.
I think it does balance the electrolytes.
Yeah.
Better than potatoes. Really? I've never had.
Well, potatoes are very acidic when they're raw. We know that.
Yeah. But you're not really supposed to eat them raw.
I've saved all of the jelly jars. Perfect serving size. Yeah, exactly. A jelly jar a day. If you're looking for something that's enjoyable, especially if you add fresh fruit juice and has a nice probiotic effect, a jelly jar a day is probably the right amount. Let's
So
stick with bananas. A lot of potassium in bananas. Kiwis have more potassium than bananas.
ooh, I like
And I
kiwis.
believe there's some greens that have some high potassium.
Yeah.
But kiwis are super high. And bananas aren't bad either.
Yep, but I don't think they take effect as quickly as pickle juice does.
No, that's because of the pH change. Yeah.
So if you really got a bad
So for
Charlie
that's an
horse,
old athlete, on the field thing. That August day of football season where it's just blaring hot and everybody's falling over with leg cramps because they're either out of condition or they're dehydrated and whatever. That's the little. Now you follow up with a lot of water because you need to increase
wash
the water too. But
yeah.
sunchokes are doing well. Good. Ours have not poked through yet, but I'm sure they will.
Yeah. No, I haven't checked on them that much yet.
So we did a lot. So last week we just
what do we do in the garden? Oh my gosh.
Last week we just came through snow.
Yeah.
So it was
we put potatoes in last week.
A repeat of winter. Cindy put in potatoes. The rain came through, the snow on Sunday morning, but it warmed up to the mid 50s, almost 60 on Sunday afternoon. We decided we couldn't turn soil; it was too wet.
Mm-hmm.
We
had 3 inches of rain during the week.
Yeah, well, later on, so we wrapped the fence almost 200 feet of welded wire fence onto the T-post where we took down some plastic, damaged plastic deer fence. So we got that. So we zipped in the whole garden.
And then this week, today we spent.
We didn't do anything all the rest of the week. We had a very busy week. Today,
after hiking in the morning, we probably walked like almost 4 miles this morning. Yeah. According to my phone, anyway. But then all afternoon we went out into the garden and you did more broad forking while I was planting a ton of brassicas. So
I think white potato does have a lot of potassium. Yeah. Yes, I'm sure of that.
But so I did get the Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, and 3 types of kale, and cabbage, and then kale, leeks, and I did put the artichokes out. And the artichokes you have to watch because you have to go after
these are real artichokes, not the Jerusalem or sunchokes. We have both. Yeah. We're trying to do some Mediterranean artichokes
this year for the first time.
This year.
So I did put those out. They're supposed to go out after danger of last frost. However, which is here is supposed to be average is May 13th, but I looked for the next 10 days and we're not getting below 40 at night. So I'm just putting them out there and see what they do.
Yeah, so Cindy
put peas out there as well.
We got some peas just a couple starts from a really well-known good greenhouse grower at the market that does some fun stuff. So I picked up like 6 or 8 things last week, just things that were a little further ahead than ours to give a push. Yeah. Or a time lapse. We moved a bunch of lettuces that self-seeded.
Oh yeah.
We had
transplanted
one Brussels sprout that made it through the winter, and then we burned out most of it because we didn't get a hoop open. Yeah. And then we got a kohlrabi, which will be tough, but we'll get some greens, and we'll see. And then we had a bunch of onions that we found, little onion starts, and what else?
Oh yeah, we put those and some spinach I put in there.
Spinach and a whole bunch of turnips from last year. Some are way too small, so they're tough right now, but they'll grow out, and the greens are useful.
Yeah.
And we'll plant more, but those were things that were all freebies because they were in the garden that we found.
Yep.
And then so we're sort of like an off-balance T-shaped garden, almost an L, but it extends a little bit. So the short end of the L or the T, it's where we have our raised beds. So other than one of the raised beds, last week we also moved all the small chicken coop stuff out of there, so we have more growing space because we don't have any chickens in there. It needs a little repair. Yeah. And then I broad forked that entire thing between yesterday and this afternoon, except for our strawberry bed and our asparagus bed, and we're not seeing asparagus up yet,
which surprises me.
They've been late, and so a lot of it was first year. We do have some that's on the 3rd year. They're going slow. So we did fertilize them a little bit with some compost because I do know they like nutrients even though they do like sandy soil.
Yeah.
And then I broad forked the entire area.
Other than that.
And then we have 2 very small rhubarb that starts from last year, so we're hoping they take off. And then we have 2 wild blueberries. One seems to be okay, one I'm not sure, and they're also just kind of setting in from last year, last spring. So
I've not had Douglas fir spring tips, but I have had uh, white white pine spring tips.
So the same
Same
idea.
idea. Basically, if you take out the outer bark, all you have, if it's as a trail snack, you can just chew on the inner bark, and it's sweet. Has the pine sap that's
very
running
high
through it.
in vitamin C. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's really what it is the pine sap running just under the outer bark. So I've not eaten the whole. Actually, when Nabi was here in, when was it? She was here in the summer, and when the roads were here.
End of June.
Yeah, so and she actually had pulled some off and was just chewing on it.
She likes the white pine, which has the softer bark, and to strip the bark and chew on the bark or the little twigs.
Yeah. So she just cut off.
So it's got that little piney, piney flavor, but it's a sweet piney flavor. So it's not too bad.
Yep. You need to run out and have an artichoke. Oh yes.
So I've worked with a lot of artichokes. I like the small Mediterranean or Italian ones better than the big California. Well, you do different things. So the classic thing you do is either dip the petals in butter and use your teeth to scrape the soft piece out. That's kind of hard to do. You do it at home because it's messy. Get stuff in your teeth. There isn't a lot on there. The other thing you can do is cut the tops and the spines off, and ideally then you open up the center and you cut out the choke, or not the heart, but the actual choke, which is it's a thistle. It's a big thistle. And then people jam it full of either a little sausage or breadcrumbs and garlic and pour butter and oil over it and bake it. That's sort of a rudimentary way because it's, but it will soften if you bake it. And that's pretty good. So that's kind of the traditional American Italian way. In France, and when you get fancy, you take the little ones, you cut off the top half or third. So you cut off all the spines. You take a spoon and you dig out all the choke, and so you mostly are left with a little plate on the bottom, and they may have a little bit of the tender inside, and you trim out all of the outside green leaves. So you remove like 60% of it. And then the stalk is sort of like broccoli. There is a very fibrous outside, which you can peel with a knife, just like broccoli, where you put it in the end and you rip the hard outer part out. And what's left is just the cup, maybe a little bit of top inside leaves, and then the stem. And the cup and the stem are tender and the best part. And you have to go through and blanch them. The problem is it turns black very quickly. So you need to keep it in acidified water. We actually, traditionally, classically, you cook it in a blanc. So you, combination of a very small amount of flour, milk, salt, and vinegar, or or lemon juice. Seems weird because you're taking milk and lemon juice, but the salt and the flour protect it. And you bring that to a simmer. It's kind of it's like a milk consistency. And you can cook it, cool it down, and you can put the artichokes in there, or you can blanch it and soften them in there. Once you blanch it in there, they will no longer darken. It's actually, if any of you are into chemistry or biology, it's almost the same as what's used in a lab as a buffering solution.
Yeah, okay.
As soon as they taught that, and almost nobody makes it. It's an old classical thing. Very few chefs even know what it is because most of them didn't go through that training. They should. But because I'd worked
time consuming.
It's very time consuming. You're throwing away at least 60% of it. It's pricey, and so that's how you do it in a fine French restaurant. It's really, and then you can, and then traditionally you take the little ones, you stuff it with a little creme fraiche and caviar on top, and you serve it as a little cup for dessert, or you do different, or you slice them in quarters, and then you quick saute them and add them in, and but yeah, so that's why people cut the top off in half, load them with breadcrumbs and stuff, and roast them, because it's
that idea.
Yeah, it's a lot simpler. I don't know what we'll do. So I had a friend who grew some artichokes. They went through some type of blanch process, which I don't remember. They put them, I think, inside in the dark. They started them, went in the dark, and came back. I think it was to force them to.
Because they're big plants.
Well, they weren't big at that point. It was in the spring they did it. I don't know if it had to do when they started them, but anyway, they will grow, and they grow in New York. I know they will grow if you catch them the right time of year. They may not get as big But that's fine. And you do want
So,
to harvest them before they open up, otherwise you just get this massive thistle.
Green Raven.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are you? What state are you in? Said bought a couple things on a whim this week. First is a fig plant. Know nothing about them. Tag says no pollinator needed. No hardy to -10. That sounds like a Chicago hardy fig to me.
Or similar.
Or similar variety.
Which is what we don't have here, but we do want.
We want one. Should you leave it in the pot?
They grow pretty big. I would not.
I would put it in, I would still give it a somewhat, if you're in a cold area like in Michigan here, I would put it like near a south facing wall.
Find your sunniest area, south facing.
Or east facing maybe to warm up.
Ideally, if you can get
Maryland.
heat to bounce off of it.
Yeah.
That's why. Now, if you're in the south, you may not, but in general, they're Mediterranean and they love.
there.
Yeah, so find your place that gets the most sun through the entirety of the day, and ideally, if you can reflect heat off of it. Alternatively, you might be able to put it close to some asphalt pavement or other things because you want to generate heat early in the season.
Now, they are a little bit warmer than us, so it probably would do a little better there.
Yeah.
Here we have to really.
They do fine here too.
Here we have to really protect it. I mean, this last year we got down to -15. I know a couple people with Chicago hardy figs here, but they have them against a wall or near pavement and it absorbs all that heat.
Yeah. So plan your microclimate with it. Ideally, figs will grow into a large bush, almost a tree. Even when we had some in Atlanta, place that I worked, they didn't really trim it back much. It was protected. Here we tend to cut it almost to the ground for the winter so it doesn't burn out. And then you usually load it with like straw or you put some buckets over it and you wrap it and you really protect it. So I think in Maryland you would also probably want to cut it back down in the winter
and protect it
and ideally protect it from and it's not that snow is a problem, it's bitter cold whipping winds that will burn it out and it will shoot up brand new shoots. So the problem is if it's starting from shoots instead of already having some established limbs that are going to put out new growth, it takes longer for it to establish.
Yeah.
But they do grow up. They grow very fast. The leaves can be very big. They will yield, if it's a Chicago hardy, it will be a brown or black fig, brown fig. So you have green figs, brown figs, and black figs. There's Turkish figs. There's the California Mission black fig, which is really nice. And then you get when some are green or yellow on the outside. When you harvest them, then they're usually pink or reddish, sometimes yellow in the middle. They're amazing. The two things you need to do is when they are finally ready, and they can be very, very hardy and yield many, many figs through the late summer. You may want to net it because you're going to fight with the birds.
Yes.
And you will get trails of ants up with it. So you'll fight with the ants. They'll actually eat them and take chunks out. Yeah, they're super sweet. But you're going to fight with the birds. So if you realize nothing's getting ripe, but you keep seeing them, you may have to net it because birds or squirrels or something they will aggressively take them. The ants, you can kind of chase them away and get them away, but it's quite a fun. I mean, they're quite tasty and they're wonderful. They're fairly sweet raw, but they're beautiful when you cook them in some syrup or you roast and bake them down. And of course, you can dehydrate them. They make really nice desserts. Or we would do a pastry and bake like a beggar's purse. And put a whole fig in there and a little bit of honey or syrup or even a little cinnamon or whatever, and we would bake it off. It has obviously some effects like raisins, but that's really when they're dried. So yeah, it makes a beautiful summer fruit dessert.
Yeah.
And custard.
I just don't know how I haven't seen it in New York or in Michigan grown in a pot, and I'm wondering if that's because it's
Newtons, yes.
If you have to keep the roots warm enough, because if it's in the ground, it's going to keep the root system warmer.
Well, you could bring them into a greenhouse and keep them going. Now the problem being they could grow 6 or 8 feet high through the year, and the leaves can be this big. I think you need a really big pot because it needs it's a pretty big plant. You might be better digging it up and moving it inside if you want to do that, but and keeping it in some soil.
Carrie's aunt has a fig tree in the backyard. They used to pick the figs off the tree.
Yeah.
Shocked the first time they saw it for sale in the grocery store. Not cheap. Yeah,
No,
no.
they're not cheap. The other problem being when you get figs in the grocery store, they're usually shipped from California or other places. They ship them ripe, and they ripen very fast, so they degrade very quickly
Mm.
when they're too cold, or when they're too hot, or they're sitting out. And so, if they're picked too early, they're not sweet. If they're picked on time, you've got to use them very quickly, and they can degrade and become, pretty much throwaway. So be very careful when you select them in a grocery store because you will pay. Cheapest you'll pay is probably 30 to 50 cents, and you could pay $1. The really big ones. I mean, these are some wholesale prices. You could pay over $1 early in the season per fig. Big deal for Italian shops. So if you're in an Italian area, starting around this time, they'll start having them in. They may have them for Mother's Day. Look around in your, ethnic Italian neighborhoods or Italian shops and produce. Um, they're likely to have them because they're prized and people do want them, but do expect to pay for them.
Yeah. Grew up in Sacramento. Oh, yeah. So.
Yeah, I love the dried mission figs. I mean, I like a lot of the Turkish brown figs, and they kind of candy or they pack them in sugar, and dry them out. You see those in the stores, and so it's like totally like eating a grape and eating a raisin. Very, very different taste experiences when they're fresh and when they're dehydrated.
Yeah. Any other cooking questions? So we kind of ran through all of our stuff, even though we have crazy amounts of things going on.
Let's see what else. So we did the garden. Cindy planted. I dug a lot. We have more work to do.
Yeah.
I got the plow off today.
I still haven't started my tomatoes. I got to do those.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, and I also have to finish the coop. I started it, and it'll probably take. I'm thinking that tomorrow, but
Yeah, so I got the plow off the truck.
Finally.
I went to get gas for the mower because my gas can was out, and I picked up all the sticks in the front yards because we started with the backyard we had a good weather and then it got bad.
I know I pick a fence.
And then I picked up all the sticks and I cut the first 30 or 40 feet of yard by the road, and then we've just cut rings around the forest area, and we're letting that grow up, and then we cut a little along the front of the house where there's a little yard area. So I did that for the first time in the front.
Yeah.
And so I planted all those field grasses last year that we really didn't think took very well due to lack of water or shade, probably shade. We have a bunch of new stuff that I don't really recognize, and we have a bunch of things that look like little tassels, so it is a grain. I don't know if it's a young wheat because there was, or if it's something. It looks like wheat. It could be barley. I have to look closer.
Because you're supposed to cut those high too.
Well, ideally, the field grasses should be cut at like 6 or 8 inches. Yeah. Our mower, because it's a garden mower, not a farm tractor, can't cut more than 4 inches high. So I just cut the 2 passes around the ring so we can show it's maintained. I'm going to let that stuff grow up. So we have more diversity back there. The other thing I was told was not only are we holding the sand and soil in, but 2 things happen. One, we want to let it grow before the leaves are just coming out on the maples and the cherries. We want them to grow while there's still light through there. Yeah. And the next thing is if there's low light, you actually want to keep stuff high because you need more greenery, more chlorophyll to accept the small amount of light there. So if you keep cutting it short,
you're going to kill it.
Somebody told me that last year. I'm like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Because you need all that to photosynthesize, you need more green.
Yeah, so you actually want to cut it much higher, and you might have a chance of saving grass if it grows in the spring. So yeah, we have some blend in there. I didn't put anything new because we can't run our chickens through the front yard. We might be able to for a day, but the
I wouldn't want to tick people off.
Yeah, the county ordinances, they need to be behind the footprint of your house. So that I don't have a way to grow it up and bale it or anything.
Well, your chicken coop has to be behind the footprint of your house. So the problem is, I think their ordinance has to do with stationary coops and not tractors. But
I don't want to. We might be able to put them there for the day, but it's too much work because it's moving it a long ways to move them in and out in the morning and night.
Hi, City Girl Country Hat. Okay, new property has a huge fig tree that's covered. Would you suggest dehydrating as first means of preservation? Because they do not
Yes,
have sugar in the
because you're
house.
going to concentrate the natural fructose.
Yeah.
So if you take down water, you increase flavor and sweetness, plus you get the whole time. Yeah. So the other things you do is make jams or preserves or
Yeah.
compotes.
But they're sugar free.
Sometimes you pack them in sugar, all for preservation as well as flavor.
Yeah.
So in a case where you want to have no sugar added, I would either dehydrate them. You could also cook them down and naturally cook them down so they form a compote without adding sugar, and they'll concentrate. You need to be careful it doesn't burn, because they're a very sweet, extremely sweet item. That's why all the fig pastes and things are used as an ingredient. But yeah, I would definitely consider dehydrating them. Don't dehydrate them a crazy amount because they'll get tough. And I'm not sure. Some of the ones that are really soft, they're putting them in a little solution, whether there's a little glycerin in there or they have a little. Well, the Turkish ones, you can see the small amount of sugar around them, so they're putting them into a syrup or sugar water a little bit while they dehydrate them. I think some of the commercial ones have a little glycerin because they're very soft and pliable. And you can always bake them. You can bake them down so they kind of collapse and form a paste.
You can probably freeze them for saving for later.
Well, yeah, you can freeze them. At that point, you're going to want to cook with them.
Yeah.
But it's not. You can make anything. All of your. Well, you're not using any sugar, but all of your desserts where people are using like cobblers and grunts and and different
popovers or whatever.
Well, yeah, no, the different where you have different doughs that surround them, and they're fruited desserts. You can use them as an ice cream topping, and with cheese and whatever else.
Figs and cheese.
Yeah, so there's a lot of nice things you can do. Oh, and it's not. Also, people do like cream. They'll do a burned cream, like a creme brulee or a heavy cream, and they'll combine cream or custards with figs either on top or mixed in. So.
Second whim was 8 chicks from Tractor Supply, 10 cents each. Guess they'll be building a tractor. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they just get so frantic. We've been waiting for chickens
to go broody.
And I think we're down to like 2 or 3 chickens, which is.
You're talking about in the freezer.
So our
down to 2 or 3 chickens in the freezer. We have our whole flock outside.
I'm almost tempted to get some
Freedom Rangers or something.
Yeah, or something that grows fast. The Cornish cross, which we really avoid. Almost tempted to get like 30 Cornish cross so we can just pound through chickens in 8 to 10 weeks.
We don't really have
instead of 16 or 18. Them. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like the flavor of Cornish cross as much. They just seem.
They're less flavorful because they grow fast. They don't have time to develop and eat enough to.
Not as dark a meat either. So. Only went for 3, trying to put under a hen. No. Excuse me. Yeah. They had no chicks.
Well, you can mail order chickens.
Yeah, you can.
That's common.
Yeah. Last time I never bought any from TSC. I actually the only ones I bought were a couple roosters to just increase the genetic diversity of the flock, but last time I went to our TSC, they were like dying chicks left and right, and I did not like. They were just not taken care
Our
of.
feed store has chicks a lot of times. He cares for them a little bit better.
Yeah, he does.
Because, but they're also kind of run of the mill. But
they're still mail ordered. I mean, you get them.
And then he keeps them under an incubator. So
under heat
and
lamps.
he also they get cheaper and cheaper as they get older. As soon as they start developing their wing feathers a little bit.
At about a week old.
Yeah, they start dropping them to 50 cents or $1 because he wants to move them out
before they get too big, of course.
Yeah, and so he's just hoping to.
Getting quail.
We don't have quail, but a lot of people around here have been getting quail. Yeah. Pratt's got quail, didn't they? Yeah,
Pratt's have quail. Rose has lots of quail.
I've cooked a lot of quail.
Yeah.
They make funny noises. I know that.
That's why you'll know.
But they're not.
TSC during chick season.
But not as funny noises as the guinea fowl.
Yeah. They are
They're
loud
weird.
and weird. Yes, they are weird. The only ones I have experience with was when we visited Rhodes, but they're just weird birds. But yeah, no, we hardly ever go to TSC generally because we
We
have
have
a
one
couple
pretty. Yeah, we
local
have one pretty close. We don't buy feed there because we have a local feed
feed store.
mill.
Yeah,
That he
he
was
mills his own feed, and he
yeah,
actually
and he
sells
was
us.
culinary trained, so we chat food, and he really cares about the food. Like
Yeah.
he really. We're very lucky. I don't think there's many feed supply stores where we have two. We have two local private, independently owned feed stores and supply stores in our area. They're both good, but this one, which is a feed grinding mill,
Yeah.
is just spectacular.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't need many, but hens are giving me many eggs. Getting older, so need new chickens. Yeah, we need some new hens for the fall. We need meat chickens because, and we just use our extras from our main flock as meat. But I was hoping I'd get 3 broody hens from the main flock this year and give them each a dozen eggs to sit on, and that would be plenty for meat for the year or for the winter.
Those must have been older chickens that they were fighting and cannibalizing themselves. I mean, the chicks won't do that. The thing is, chickens will eat anything that dies, and actually, it really doesn't hurt them much, as gross as it is. It's not the worst thing, but we definitely don't try and prevent it.
Well, the problem with it, yeah, if there's blood there, they
Yeah,
will peck at it.
yeah.
So once there's any injury to start with, then they will attack. So that's a problem.
We were at the 4-H fair last year, and there were two chickens in a close crate. I'm like, Cindy, that one, it was pecking at another chicken to the point where I think it had almost pecked into its brain and it was
Yeah,
still alive. And so they were all in showing or auction.
it was horrible.
And so we had a friend there that shows, and we're like, we got to go find our friend and just
Yeah.
tell him, because she knows who everybody is. I'm like,
Yeah,
you got kids and everybody else running around, but that's gross. You got a chicken that's kind of alive and another chicken that's basically eating it.
yeah,
And there was nobody there to supervise it and prevent it, which usually there's always somebody there.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So guinea fowl decimated the cricket population. She was having crickets in the house. That's awesome. Yeah, the guinea fowl are supposed to help.
We cooked them twice in culinary school. That was my first experience. I didn't know what
They're
they
supposed
were.
to help take out the ticks.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a culinary thing, they're kind of rare, but they're a delicacy, and a lot of people really like them. First time I had it, I did not like it. I thought it was kind of strong. The next time, I don't know if it was just a bad. Next time it was fine, but we have a bunch of people around here that grow them. But yeah. Well, guineas eat stink bugs. That'd be nice. We got still got them all over.
That would be nice. I don't know, because that is one issue that we have. Not that stink bugs cause any problems. It's just they just like to come in mass. Barbecue. How do your guineas like? Oh, beef. I keep saying barbecue, BBQ. You know what that stands for? Butcher, baker, case maker.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, barbecue what? I have never had barbecue guineas.
I bet if you rubbed it and did it slow enough that they'd be pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. That's right. I don't know.
Anyway,
there's always that balance between raising and holding on to them, and then of course the eating of them.
And it is after 10 o'clock, so I think we should probably wrap things up.
Yeah, we're starting to get on a really early schedule, so it's
Yeah, he's going to bed earlier because he has to get up crazy early to make food before market because we're selling prepared food at the markets now. And
yeah, I was up at 3:30
yesterday morning.
Yeah, Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Probably be up at 3 next Saturday, and then I have a midweek market that I have to be up at about 4:30.
It's making me tired thinking about it now.
Yeah, so it's.
And I do have to work in the morning, so I think we will be here again next week. Next weekend's gonna be crazy busy again.
Yeah, we got a bunch of things going on.
I don't know. I'm gonna see what I could do during the week because I don't think we're gonna be doing much on the weekend that gets stuff done around here. So, considering saving eggs, putting them in water with slaked lime. Is pickling lime the same thing?
I don't know. It might be. I know a couple of people did it with mixed, generally okay results.
For pickling eggs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't tried it. I've never.
I think it's lime is actually it's not limestone. Um,
I don't know.
it's alkaline.
Yeah.
There's couple chemical reactions, and I can't. I did know, but I can't remember how it's made. It's industrially made. Nobody makes it. You just buy it. Well, I mean, you can get. Yeah, so it's
Flake lime and pickling lime.
yeah.
I don't know if they're the same.
I don't know. It's 1870s Homestead did a couple
Egg pickling.
egg pickling. Yeah, they're doing water preserved eggs last year. They came out pretty slimy and weird at first, they thought, but once they got them cleaned up, I think they thought they were okay. So, they had some that they threw. I think they had some. They showed the process, and they did have some comments about what they would do slightly different this year, from what I remember from watching that video last fall. So you might want to go to that one.
Yeah.
And but a bunch of people are doing it.
Yeah. So I haven't tried it here.
I'm sure they're not quite as good as fresh eggs, but
yeah, I like my fresh eggs. Anyway, yeah, we should cut it off here. Thankfully our internet did not cut out tonight to shut us off tonight, but it is after 10, almost quarter after. So we will be back next week. I will see what we can do during the week as far as the video goes. And
yeah, so it's Mother's Day.
It is Mother's Day.
But we'll be.
It's Cinco de Mayo today. It's happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody even knows what Cinco de Mayo is for the most part.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know. A lot of people don't.
We had a tug of war for Cinco de Mayo in our French class versus the Spanish class in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and guess who won? There were 4 beginning Spanish classes. There were 2 beginning French classes.
Yeah.
It was all the beginners against all the beginners.
That
was a little weighted, literally. Anyway.
So yeah, we have. So we'll be there. We have an event Saturday night after the market, and we believe we'll be foraging Sunday afternoon, late afternoon into early evening, which means we'll be running right back to do live show from Foraging with Nobby, which may mean we have some morels or other fun things in tow.
I don't know if you count this as the first Mother's Day or next year as the first Mother's Day, 13 moons. I'm only 15 weeks ahead.
Tornado warning.
Uh-oh. Well, you better be careful there.
Better to have a warning than no warning. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this, do you count this as my first Mother's Day or next year as our first Mother's Day? I would have counted next year as the first one. And next year, I wonder if it's going to be on my birthday next year.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing. Cindy and can't have her birthday fall on Mother's Day, and my mother and Cindy share the same
birthday,
the same day, not the same year.
Yep. So my birthday's actually Saturday, so we're going out Saturday night. Yeah. So it's not Mother's Day this year. It's the Mexican 4th of July.
It's become the Mexican 4th of July and everybody else's. It's the Mexican St. Patrick's Day. There you go.
Oh boy.
For all the people that are neither Irish nor Mexican but celebrate
one or the other. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Well, then you got Guy Fawkes Day coming up soon too. That's a good one to look up. The story of Guy Fawkes Day and.
Okay. This one counts. Okay, so I guess it is my first Mother's Day then. And I guess is it June Father's Day? That'll be your first Father's Day. Okay, guys, we got to cut it off. So we will see you next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope everybody has a great week and getting out in the garden and getting everything planted. Take care, you guys.
Good night.